So there is less than a month until Leagues 5 now, and I wanted to get together with a fellow old school RuneScape Leagues content creator, DoubleShine, to have a chat about where we would rank each region that you can pick in Leagues 5. We excluded the first two regions, and then we had to kind of defend our position to each other. You know, if one of us had put a region lower than the other one, we'd have to defend why we placed it where we did. And then we came up with our own kind of combined list with both of our thoughts put into it. And it just made for a really fun discussion. I think you guys will like it, and there's a lot of really useful information in there. So I hope you guys enjoy this. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe. It helps me out a lot. Anyway, how are you? You okay? Sorry, I forgot to ask.
No, I've been doing good. I've been a little sick this week, so I might cough every now and then, but you know, I'll do my best not to.
Man. So it's good to finally chat because we said we're going to do this for a while. And today we're going to be talking through a top 9 Leagues 5 regions and seeing whether we disagree on stuff, because I'm sure we will, right?
Oh, I hope so. I'm like, the scariest thing is when you show me your list and we just have 100% agreeing and there's just nothing to talk about for like,
there's no
be
shot.
The weirdest thing. So yeah.
There is no shot. Should we start? Shall I send you my list?
Yeah, I'm down. I want to see it because this is really gonna determine how interesting this video is.
Oh, for sure. Okay. Region reveal. Yeah. Our top 9s
and...
in 3, 2, 1. Oh,
yeah, there's a lot of differences. There are a lot of differences here. Yep. Okay.
Oh, goddamn.
That's good.
Okay.
Very good. Very good.
I think our 8 and 9 are practically the same, though, right?
No, I disagree. I super disagree. I think the order matters a lot in those. My number 9 is Wildy. Your number 9 is Tirannwn, right?
Tirannwn, yeah.
Now, we're not going to talk about this yet because we're going to wait till it shows up. However, my number 8 is Tirannwn. So that's, okay. Now we'll talk about Tirannwn, and I want to see why Tirannwn's your number 9, and I have to, I guess, defend it as number 8.
It's a genuinely great region, right, for like all combat styles. Like you've got all the stuff that you'll get from Zulrah and CG, but in my opinion, that is it. Like that is all there is in Tirannwn is Zulrah, CG. You can make an argument for like it being good for skilling with Zalcano and stuff, but like
that's not even that good. Zalcano's not even that good. That's
yeah,
the problem. Like it's
someone
rough.
Someone out there's gonna be like, but dude, you forgot about the red chins. It's like, yeah, it's not really enough. It just feels like there's nothing there.
No, I totally agree. I feel like it feels like Tirannwn is a skilling region, but it doesn't have that many good skilling things. You know what I mean? Like that's kind of the problem. It's like it's not enough to be like I think that strong on its own, and like the problem is though is like I like Corrupted Gauntlet and I like Zulrah, but at the same time I also feel like not being able to do like Zulrah with melee kind of stinks, and then like Corrupted Gauntlet can also be a bit of a chore depending on like what kind of like relics you have and stuff. Obviously we don't know relics and stuff like that, so we're not trying to like tell you what's the best, but like, you know, when you have to do like all the prep and stuff like that, like getting your weapons and the like food, like it is kind of cool when like you do get a relic that speeds that up, but it's like it's so dependent on what the relics are that I feel like even with good relics it's still like pretty low tier for me. That's
and like what's always amazed me about Tirannwn, right, is you could draw like a border out of the entire region, cut half of it out, and you wouldn't lose anything. Like I feel like
so
half the map is just like a wasteland, I swear.
Yeah, that's so true. It's literally like if you had like Morytania with like just the swamp, it's like okay, nobody cares about that part. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, I think one more thing is that like even the rewards, like the Bofa and the Blowpipe especially, like I feel like historically they also haven't really been that good in the Leagues format, because like speeding up, obviously we don't know, but like if it was to speed up the Blowpipe to be like a one-tick weapon, that on paper sounds so cool, but like you can't actually really use it that much because you can't move. So yeah, I don't know. It just
that was the issue in Leagues 2, wasn't it? Was Blowpipe was insane back then.
Yes, it was insane back then.
But like how many people could effectively use it to its full potential on like a one tick? It just wasn't possible. So yeah, no, totally agree. So what do we think though with Tirannwn? Because I don't think there's much more to say about it.
No,
but your number 9 is Wildy. So like, where do we stand on this? Does it stay at number 9?
Well, we would go to your 8 first, and your 8 is Kandarin, right?
My number 8 is Kandarin. And I really thought when you sent me your list, right, and your number 7 is Kandarin, I'm surprised because I thought you were a big like mage stan and like always stick by the book of like, you know, pick Kandarin. It's a good skilling region. I don't know. I thought it would have been higher on your list, but yeah,
it took me a while. It took me a while.
Yeah.
Man, here's the thing about Kandarin. The problem that I am a Kandarin apologist. I love that region and like I think it's really good. I think my biggest problem with it is like it just gets boring later.
Yeah.
Like it just runs out of stuff to do.
Yeah.
And then I also think Kandarin has a super weird problem where it's like it's really good for melee for piety, but it sucks to do with melee. Like it is the worst region ever for melee because you can't do Kraken. Thermo, Nuclear Smoke Devil kind of sucks with melee. Like, yeah, I don't know. This is one of those regions where like I am praying it gets saved by like the new changes with like echo bosses and whatnot. But yeah, it needs like something to make it good. So
and that's what we hope for, right? That the echo boss in Kandarin makes up for the weakness, which is that it just doesn't really have much else going for it for melee, or even ranged people don't really get much out of Kandarin. Like Kandarin has always just been the region that you get your best in slot jewelry from, and then you move on.
And I just don't. The hard part for me is thinking like what could even fix Kandarin, and I just really don't know. Especially because like you mentioned that like I love the mage route, and I do think that is really cool. But like Occult Necklace has been nerfed pretty significantly since. A lot of that mage percentage has been redistributed, which for leagues is actually awesome because I don't think you need Kandarin as much anymore. Like you can probably get away without using the occult or without using a tormented bracelet if you can find that percentage somewhere else now instead.
I don't think it's going to be like as necessary a pick for mage enjoyers, or even like I feel like for the max hits you get from the torture or even like an anguish is kind of ignorable. So I feel like Kandarin, genuinely this league will be less picked. It's probably a big claim, but I think it will.
I actually thought about like how good will Amulet of Torture be, because you can get the new Amulet of Rancor or Morytania, right?
Yeah.
But like I feel like most of the time you'd probably run Blood Fury anyways if you have Morytania. So it's like, man, I don't know. It needs something, and I feel like that's why it's like I can't put it any higher than this. Like, and I already feel like 7 is like me squeezing it there because it needs help.
Where did I put it? Let me have a quick look. Number 8. So again, same reasons as you, exactly the same reasons. And I guess we don't know like what impact the Echo boss is going to have. And I should probably caveat that for this whole thing is that we are not assuming that the Echo boss information is tied into this, because it's not. So this list post Echo boss announcement could look totally different for both of us, I'm sure. But right now we're just going on the basis that we don't know what the Echo bosses are, what they give. But yeah, Kandarin near the bottom for me and you, right?
One thing I did want to talk about, again, obviously we don't know that much about Echo bosses, but I do feel like there could be a world where Kandarin is made better, because the Thermonuclear Smoke Devil, one of the big problems that you have in leagues is the fact that there's not an instance for it, right?
Yeah.
And I think if the Echo boss variant actually had an instance, that would make that boss like way better, I think, because you wouldn't be competing with other players. And I think that's actually a cool way that they could add that like change. So, and I also I had one idea, all right, because I think that there is a world where Kandarin and Tirannwn become a lot better, all right?
Yeah, go
on.
What
if we have, think about that, what if we have like a melee weapon?
You're gonna have to sell
that, like,
this hard.
I know, but listen to me. What if we have like a melee weapon, but it's like the Master Sword in like Legend of Zelda, where like it shoots out like bolts ranged. So you could still hit like the Kraken with a melee weapon. It would like scale with your melee.
Yeah, that would
actually make things. Then you could do like Kriara, you could do Kraken, you could do Zulra, like all those. Suddenly you could do with like a melee setup now, and that's what got me thinking. I'm like, all right, there's a world where we're still living with Kandarin.
Yeah, it would have to be something huge though. I guess we just don't know at this stage what that is.
I think that's pretty much it with Kandarin. I think we move on to your 7, which is the Wildy, right?
Yeah, so I mean our bottom 3 are the same, just like in a different order, right? Like just this slightly different order. And the only reason I've put Wilderness near the bottom is I don't feel like anything you get from the Wilderness, people are going to come at me for saying this, but I don't feel like anything you get in the wilderness carries over well to other regions. Like, they're all great within the wilderness, the rev weapons. Sure, the upgraded versions of them can be used like around the game. And I know a lot of people are against PKing in leagues, but I think like, why pick the wilderness if you're not gonna, you know, maybe skull up at some point and have some fun. I just feel like it falls off really hard. Like, it's great early, but I feel like it falls off. What are your thoughts? What do you think about the wilderness?
Yeah, so the reason why I have it at like number 9, and I agree with you, like it's fun, but for me the problem is like there's no draw to the wildy. There's nothing that I look at the wildy that I'm like genuinely excited to do. I could see myself having fun at Zulrah. I can see myself, you know, having some fun doing like some of the Kandarin, like demonic gorillas and whatnot. Like some of that stuff is kind of fun with all the League's powers, but like Corp still sucks. All the wildy bosses just kind of fall over, and like there's not really any crazy reward that you're really like looking for from the wildy either. Like KBD sucks, and past that, like there's just nothing else that like I feel like makes me excited about the wildy. So
I guess it depends. The big thing for me about wildy, right, that could just spin this whole thing around for me, and I would end up putting wildy much higher, is what the special attack relic is like this year. Because there's an argument that Void Waker would be incredible everywhere with the special attacking relic. But if it's anything like last year's relic, where, you know, it cuts down your HP and you can't use it too much, I still don't think it's going to move it on the list. But it like, the relic could save it. A relic could save it.
Yeah, and if you remember, like the last year's relic also gave you 100% accuracy on your special attacks, which is like the whole point of the Void Waker.
Yeah, that
so
was
it's like
counterintuitive.
When you give the Void Waker effect to literally every special attack, it kind of nerfs the Void Waker relatively. So I think for me, because you mentioned the rev weapons, I feel like if there was a change that allowed the rev weapons to be used in other regions, then the wildy would probably go up like pretty substantially, because they are really cool weapons. They're just like, you can't, like, they just help you kill wildy bosses faster, which you already destroy with like a dragon scimitar.
And they did that in Deadman mode, didn't they?
Yeah, exactly. And I love that. It was really fun to use them in Deadman mode. So that's what I'm really hoping to see kind of come back.
Question then, if Rathmore passed the polls, would it be higher on your list?
I don't think so. Not very much. I don't think I would be that sold on Rathmore.
But it's a world boss, dude.
It is.
It's a world boss in the wilderness.
I know, but like, what does it do? It makes my AGS stronger. Like, is that? It's like I do agree with you that like if you like the PKing thing though, obviously it's a no-brainer. You take it and like you have some fun. But like, I mean, that's what Deadman's for, so right?
Yeah,
like,
and I think Soul Wars kind of replaced that in Leagues 4, right? Like everyone was just going in Soul Wars and going at each other, and those poor melee pickers were just frozen and they could never move. That was great.
Wait, can I ask you, because this is kind of like off topic, but what do you think about the people who would actually go like PK and Soul Wars when like everybody else was just like chilling and doing nothing?
I guess it depends, because like there were two worlds, right? There was like the world where it was run by that like clan chat that do it efficiently, like no killing, no fucking around, do it efficiently or get the fuck out. Like that's how they go by. And I like that, and I think no PKing in that good. But I think people who PK'd in Soul Wars, you know what? I love it, and I think there needs to be more of it, because for some people, that is their way of expressing their relic choices. Like, they pick these relics because they want to see how it goes down in PvP, or they think it's fun. Yeah, I like the PvP element. Why, are you going to say you hate it?
No, I totally agree. I like, don't get me wrong, when it would happen and like somebody would go like kill the boss and you get like half of the zeal or whatever, like, it pissed me off a bit, but like, at the same time, like, you're playing a PvP minigame. Like, you can't complain if somebody's doing PvP in the minigame. Like, that's kind of the point. Like, go do pest control if you don't want to fight someone else.
So, where are we? Where did we get to?
Well, we've gone through the bottom 3, so I think now we're at the mid 3. So I think we'd start with...
What's your... Oh, our 6s are the same.
Oh, our 6 are the same. Okay, that makes this part easier. And that is Fremennik for both. Yeah, so here, the thing with Fremi is I feel like everybody values it low, and then it turns out it's good every single time. So, like, everybody always, like, laughs at it, says it sucks, the content's not fun, but then if you actually have played Fremennik, like, it's really not that bad for leagues, and it has, like, a lot of, like, good, like, merits and stuff like that. I think the bosses are not the best. Like Vorkath, I think a lot of people just hate it because they've done it so many times in the main game.
Yeah.
Dagannoth Kings are pretty boring, I would say, and like Duke, sadly, that with like having to prep every time, I think that makes the Duke like one of the worst bosses in leagues, just because there's a lot of downtime where you're not really getting any benefit. But like overall, the region just has a lot. Like there's just a lot of good stuff in Fremennik.
Yeah, I totally agree. That's exactly what I thought before putting this list together, was that I tried to sum it up in like as few words possible, and it's literally just Vorkath, Basilisk Knights, Duke, Muspah, Dagannoth Kings. But when you actually break down how different those experiences are across those PVM things, because that's the main thing I focus on anyway, is like what PVM things are there to do in the region, then I think there's actually a good amount there. The items you get from those were really good. And we know that the DKs, or at least we think we know from the trailer, right, that the DKs are the Echo boss in Fremi. So I'm really interested to see if that is just one of the DKs, or whether all three of them are like enhanced to be a bit more complicated, which would actually make it, in my opinion, a really fun PVM encounter. You know, if you've got to deal with like this tribrid situation that's even harder than before, I think it could be fun.
Yeah, I totally agree. Like my problem was always like, I remember in Leagues 2, I picked it. I did like maybe 20 Dagannoth Kings, and there was a task to kill each one 750 times. And I was like, okay, well, this is the worst thing ever. Like, I am not doing this. But if it's an actual fun PVM encounter that also, by the way, is unique to Leagues, like you can't do this in the main game, like that's really cool. And I could see myself like easily dropping, you know, a couple hundred kills on like a new Dagannoth Kings experience that actually has like some more mechanics going on.
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, fingers crossed it's all three of them, because I feel like just one of them getting a, you know, slightly different mechanic might still be boring, but...
Oh, it's just Rex, and he's just 3 times bigger and just slaps you with hundreds. That's it.
I mean, that would be fun. That would still be fun, potentially, until you safe spot him in exactly the same way. But
exactly.
Yeah. All right, moving on then. So, number 5, you've got Varlamore, and I've got Morytania.
So I think now we can talk about Varlamore, basically, because it's shown up. Mine's number 5, yours number 3.
Okay, so I've got Varlamore a lot higher. I have to admit that I think it is for slightly selfish reasons, in the sense of that I think Varlamore is, in my opinion, the strongest first region pick now. That's what I genuinely think, because there's so much going for it in the early game. The only reason it's not higher on my list is because it falls off. Like, everything there is mid game, right? I guess you could argue that the Colosseum's got some like more late game like upgrades for you, but even then they're not really best in slot other than the Quiver. I've put Varlamore higher mainly because I think that Russian, you know, Perilous Moons or Hunter's Rumors for like early money, things like that, or the tasks behind them. I just think that in the basis of league points and like progressing you through quicker, I think it's a really good region.
Yeah, I put it a little bit lower, but I actually really like what you said about the early game region, because that was a big reason why I always was huge on Kandarin. I think Kandarin was like the best early game region.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
And now I'm definitely thinking like, Varlamore, I could see it taking that place. So I think that Varlamore is pretty damn good, and I know a lot of people are gonna, just for the novelty of a new region, like that's always gonna be a really exciting thing. I think that for me, I feel like I still need to like kind of figure out where it rests with everything, just because there is a lot of like PVM content. I'm sure, have you seen that Vardorvis is being moved to Varlamore now as well?
Yeah, that's you know, that's just another reason why it's a great pick, I think. Have they confirmed if we're going to be able to get the Soul Reaper axe from just one DT2 boss yet?
I don't think they've confirmed that, but I'd say I'm like 99% sure, because otherwise you would never be able to get it, because it would require 4 regions. So like, I'm pretty sure you can get it, which is cool. I think that for me, I would have to just I would have to just see how some of the stuff plays out. As for like melee weapons, I mean, you would, if you could get the Soul Reaper axe, that's awesome. I really am curious how the dual paddles, the McQuaddles from Perilous Moods play out, because that could be like so much fun. So I'm interested. And
that's like one of the sets, right, that you could argue competes with some best in slot stuff because of the unique mechanic, right?
Yeah, I think people have to see like how all the math comes out, but I think people are right now. The theory is that it comes out to essentially like 1.5 tick with the set and the McWaddles, which is like
that's insane.
Pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Obviously, again, it's super dependent on combat relics, so like I don't want to say for sure like, oh, this is going to be the best in slot melee. Yeah. I think it has a lot of like variety of content. Now that there's some of the like the end game content with like Coliseum and stuff like that. I think the only thing that was keeping Varlamore a bit down for me was mainly the fact that I don't know how Perilous Moons is going to feel to actually do, because there's so much like downtime early, where you're running between stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Like, you mean like early, kind of, like if you just picked Varlamore? Well,
yeah, but also like even with like, let's say you have like absolute max gear, right? It's still gonna feel awful running between the different bosses and like waiting for the blue moon guy to put your weapon in a ice cube, and you're just like that. To me, I was thinking, I'm like, oh man, I'm so scared that I'm gonna get baited by this region, and then just sit there for a minute and hate it every single time. Like, that's the scary part.
Yeah, for sure. I don't think that gets any better with relics, sadly, does it? Because the travel time between the bosses is long.
It wouldn't change anything.
And they're kind of designed in a way to slow the fight down just innately, right? So yeah, no, I totally agree. But I feel like it is a piece of content that unfortunately, and it's why it's number 3 for me and no higher, because I could make an argument for it being higher if it wasn't for the fact that once you have your Perilous Moons gear, whatever set you want to go for, you could argue there's no reason to go back, like Vardorvis, obviously, but the other content in Varlamore, I think, isn't great. Like the Hui Quattle, or however you pronounce it, the rewards from that aren't really great for leagues, in my opinion. I don't think you're going to find loads of use for a Dragon Hunter one, but I could be wrong. What do you think?
I was thinking like a couple of interesting things where I feel like ranged, like again with the combat relics, like I think something like a ranged style in Varlamore might work, where you have the quiver, you're getting the hunter's crossbow, which might be pretty nifty. We'll see. 3 tick isn't the best usually, but hey, who knows what happens. It is a crossbow. Remember last league's crossbows were insane, right?
Yeah, that's true.
But it wouldn't be able to shoot bolts. So actually, I don't know. I don't actually know how that would work, because it has its own unique bolts, right?
And the other issue with the bolts as well is they're locked behind that pretty hefty hunter level. So like you're going to be stuck doing a lot of skilling in between all of that. So like it is good, but by the time you've like the time you have to invest to get a Sunlight Hunter's crossbow with Moonlight antler bolts, you could have a full set of Perilous Moons gear or have your rune crossbow in another region. So I do think it'll be fun, and someone will do it. Like someone out there will do it, and you'll see a post on Reddit being like, this is ridiculously OP. But it's just a big investment, isn't it?
Yeah, there's like a couple other things actually on the skilling side, if we can talk about that for Varlamore, that I do think are like a big draw. I mean, everybody loves Trickster. Varlamore pickpocketing is Trickster relic, basically. You know what I mean? That's awesome. What else? Hunter Rumors. If the Hunter Rumor list works kind of like the Slayer task list, where you're only given regions that you can actually go for, you can actually set up like a really insanely efficient Hunter Rumor list. And I feel like that's going to be a lot of fun for people to do. And they're not going to have to do the ones that they don't want, or even if they do, like, let's say you have to do like Red Chins and like Kandarin or Tirannwn, you'll just do that along with the rumors. And now you're basically doing like 2 tasks at once, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I feel like it's a great piece of content to rush as well, because, it is an Ironman game mode. You will struggle at the very beginning for money unless there is another fire sale. We'll see. But Hunter's Rumors, there's going to be loads of tasks behind it. It's going to give you, a ton of XP and some good loot from the sacks. But, as you say, there's lots of other content locked behind that as well. So it'd be interesting to see if people will set up an optimal Hunter's Rumors list. Like you just pick Varlamore as your first region, rush Hunter's Rumors, and then only get hunting tasks in Varlamore,
I've done a little bit of look into it, and I think I found some pretty good lists that you can get set up.
Yeah, exactly.
That are like very fine tuned to like maybe like, if I'm not mistaken, I think you can get like just Herbivore basically at the end game, where you're just doing Herbivore Rumors.
That would be pretty sick. Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially because those tasks, I feel like you need a little bit of extra motivation to go and do sometimes. It's like, oh, catch 500 Herbie, and you're like, okay, I guess I'll do like 50 right now, and then I'll do 50 next week. I don't know. Yeah.
The one thing that I didn't want to talk about Varlamore, and I think this is what I think keeps it a little bit lower for me, is the fact that I don't know how, like, mainly I'm just a little bit worried how some of the other combat styles will feel that aren't melee. I don't know if you can mage or range Vardorvis, even with relics. I don't know how Perilous Moons is going to feel with those. I don't know if Soul Heredit, I think he has like 10,000 mage rage defense or something like crazy like that, you know? So I think that's a little bit worrying for me, is I'm not sure if this is like a melee only zone, and like you kind of screw yourself if you're not doing that. Yeah,
no, that's a good point. That is a good point. I would be interested to see if Leagues 5, though, is the world first range or mage soul Heredit kill. Like, I genuinely think someone's going to do it. So.
Oh, yeah, there will be someone for sure.
Yeah. We move on.
We're good to move on, yeah. Okay. So I guess it's weird because we're at like top 2 already, but we're still like half of them to discuss. Number 2 is Morytania for me.
Yeah, my Morytania for me is down at what, 5? Okay.
5, yeah.
So let's talk about Morytania,
that, because I think that's a huge difference.
Yeah, massively. Tell me, because it's higher on your list. You've got to sell it to me.
So let me defend Morytania. Morytania, in my opinion, is I think it's very close to being the absolute best region, because there is so much content to be doing there now, and there is so much like rewards now. You've got Barrows to do, you've got Grotesque Guardians to do, you've got Nightmare to do, you have Araxor now, and you have the Theater of Blood, which Theater of Blood, you can get every single mega rare now as well. That means Shadow, Twisted Bow, Scythe. Like, I feel like Morytania has so much like just super, super fun content to do. And that, to me right now, like, it just looks like such a blast. A big reason why I like Morytania right now is the fact that you can get the Noxious Halberd from Araxor.
Yeah.
And that, I think, is going to open up a lot of melee options, where now you have that extra like point of range, and the damage is like, it's still going to be insane.
Yeah, it's insane.
So things like doing like Fight Caves or Inferno with melee is just going to be so much easier and so much more fun now that you're not having to like, you know, do like the moonwalk. Like it's just annoying. It's just made it annoying for melee. So I think that to me brings Morytania like as just a super fun, very like PVM heavy, like lots of content to do region right now.
I'm just trying to remember actually why I was so harsh on Morytania, because I put it at 5 and I'm thinking like, actually, why did I do that? Here's my justification for why it's lower, right? I feel like, and I'm not judging everything based on whether it's good as the first region, because obviously some regions are stronger at different points of the game, but Morytania does kind of lack any early game content. Fun early game content anyway. Someone's going to come at me and say Trouble Brune's good, but you know.
Oh, that's me. Yeah, we're getting to match it up.
Oh wait, to be fair, they made changes. Okay, they made some changes. It might actually be viable as like a skilling method now, but I think otherwise for me, it's got a slower early game. I wouldn't recommend it as a first choice region, but like all of the late game stuff is amazing. The Slayer Tower, Araxor now, Theater of Blood, Blood Shards, Sepulchre, all of that stuff. So like, I get it, and I can see why you would have it in your top 3. I think for raids, Toa and Chambers are better, and that's a personal opinion. But I also think that that's maybe the general consensus of the player base as well, is that Toa is like a very accessible raid. And so is Chambers. And I feel like this time around, with Echo Bosses in particular, people might only pick one raid region. So like that choice is going to get even more tricky. And for me, I just couldn't justify it being Morytania. So that's why it's my 5.
Yeah, I feel like I'm kind of the opinion that like, I think Theater of Blood in raids, or sorry, not in raids, in leagues is like, I think is one of the most fun to do.
It's
because
good.
There is,
it is good.
Like, there is just like so much. I think the mechanics just feel pretty good, even with how hard things are and stuff like that.
Yeah.
However, I will say that this is a big caveat. This is basically my reason for not putting Morytania number 1, is the fact that I think Theater of Blood is still pretty annoying to do solo. And
that's
I feel like that's a major drawback compared to Chambers and TOA, because like if you're just logging on, you just want to chill, do some like knock out some raids, like you probably can solo Theater of Blood, but it's gonna be a pain. Like Nilos are still gonna be a huge pain.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, there's I don't know. That's a drawback for me. But like if you got friends to do it with, I think Theater of Blood's gonna feel pretty damn good.
More on that, I think that even though Leagues is like a super like communal game, like everyone gets together and plays, I found it really hard last year to find teams to play Tub with. Like genuinely quite hard. Like I would be, to be fair, it was like a few weeks into the league, but that's another reason why it's lower for me, is that the amount of people doing that content as the weeks go on is less and less. So you want something you can solo, like you say.
Yeah. But like I still think that if you do have those like friends to play with, or especially like if you just plan on playing a little bit early, the group changes now where basically it's like more than one person can get a purple now as well. I think that makes theater way more fun, whereas like before kind of sucks to like knock out a 20-minute theater and like only one person gets a purple. So I hope that gets changed. Yeah, or nobody. And it's like it's just kind of lame and stuff like that. I think also like Nightmare. I actually really like the Nightmare. I think it's a lot of fun to do in leagues where it goes a lot faster and you're not there for like 10 minutes. So
and it got the gear there got buffed this year as well, right?
Yes, I think Inquisitor is better now too, which can kind of keep you from having to go for a different melee region to get that gear. You can just use Inquisitor now with like Scythe or something, and I mean you're chilling.
Yeah, that's actually a really good shout. Honestly, I think Nightmare is enjoyable both solo and with teams, so I totally forgot about Nightmare, honestly. I think it's an underrated bit of content for in leagues in particular. I actually hate it in the main game. I can't stand it, but in leagues it's a lot of fun.
No, I agree. In leagues it gets a lot of fun. And also like I think last Deadman mode I did a lot of grotesque guardians, and I think that boss is actually really cool too. It does require 2 styles, which is we'll see how that works in leagues, but I think it's a fun boss. And there's also just like there's so much combat achievements in Morytania. It is crazy. So you get so many points from doing that. And also I think they're just kind of fun to go for in leagues because it's like kind of like you have like training wheels to get through a lot of them and stuff.
Oh, for sure. One of the things I'd love to do this league is on my main account, just try and do every combat achievement in the regions that I've got. So that would be great. And Morytania is good for that. So I was just thinking about that as well. So that's a good shout. That is a good shout. All right, should we move on?
Let's move on to your number 2.
So number 2 for me is Asgarnia, and honestly, I'm going to be super real about this. I will just say that I think Asgarnia, despite being kind of sucky for mage, is so insane for both ranged and melee that, if it appeals to 2/3 of the styles, giving you some of like the best in slot gear for like multiple equipment slots, I feel like that alone is enough that anyone who is doing either range or melee kind of has to pick it. Like if you're interested in, the absolute max gear. So, Torva, Zarite stuff. And just the content there, I feel like is slightly, for PVM anyway, slightly varied enough that you can enjoy yourself over a long period of time. So like God Wars Dungeon, Cerberus. I guess you could include Pest Control within that as just being fun to do for a little while and just flex your relics. But yeah, I just thought Asgarnia was just like almost too strong a reason, and that's why it's there. In terms of whether it's actually going to be fun for very long, I don't know.
Here's what I think.
Yeah,
I think that I agree with you that Asgarnia is like slightly better Varlamore. That's how I kind of see it.
Oh, really?
It's like, Asgarnia is just like better. It's a better version of Varlamore because you're getting all of those different or all the like gear from all the different like styles and whatnot. And God Wars Dungeon is great for that. I guess my problem with Asgarnia and why it's a little bit lower for me is just that like I feel like God Wars Dungeon just maybe I'm just growing jaded because I've done it, but I feel like God Wars Dungeon just got kind of boring for me after a while. Like you go in there, you kill the boss in 3 seconds, and then you like last recall back to your house. It's like something like, I don't know, it feels like God Wars Dungeon just isn't the most fun content for me, and really Nex isn't that fun either.
No.
So I will say though, because you said it's good for melee and ranged, I have been preaching that I think it was good for mage last year too, because you have like Whisper and stuff like that.
Oh, of course you do. Yeah.
the Whisperer, and you can do all the God Wars dungeons. I think you could do them with Mage, I'm pretty sure.
I suppose, like...
I think you could do Serp with Mage, too, so...
I suppose Ancients was so strong that, you know, you don't really need a unique weapon for it to be great. Like, you didn't need a Shadow. Like, before the Shadow, an Ancient Staff would do you literally everywhere. But I feel like Mage choices within the region are kind of weak, though. I mean, like, the Eternal Crystal, again, you need the Desert for the boots. If you don't have Ancients, then what are you really using there? And the Staff of the Dead is good as well, but just, like, I just don't feel like it's good enough, you know?
No, I think you're right. Like, it definitely needs something else for it to like make it work for Mage. But I still like, again, I think that I like bosses that I guess aren't like a chore to do and stuff like that. So I feel like all of the everything in Asgarnia is pretty chill.
I'm 100% with you. When you said, you know, you're a bit jaded that, you know, you've done this loads of times. I'm there. Like, I think I've picked Asgarnia on at least one of my Leagues accounts, every league that you could possibly do it. And I've done God Wars Dungeon in like Leagues 2, 3, and 4. And like, don't get me wrong, I'm not excited to do it again. But it will probably happen because some of the stuff behind it is unfortunately just too good for the style. Like, you know, you're going to reluctantly rock up to Nex and be like, right, everyone's just going to, you know, spread the cough. It's going to be absolute hell. No one really knows what they're doing, but it's going down quick enough. I'll just sit here for like 10 hours today until I get a tour of a piece, you know?
One thing that I also kind of thought about as far as Asgarnia goes is that typically defenders are so huge, right? But there's like a lot of good two hands now.
That's exactly what I was just thinking. I was thinking, like, I don't even think it's a selling point anymore. Like the defenders. And like you could argue that the Warriors Guild is like a point of interest there. But you could skip that content altogether if there wasn't going to be tasks for it, which there obviously will. So
I mean, there probably will, but it's like it's not. I just don't think it's as important anymore. If you have like the dual paddles from Varlamore, you have the halberd from Morytania. Like, there's other options. I think where I'm like not as sold on that. Even the gear, like Bandos is good, but like you might just be fine with the Blood Moon set from Varlamore or Inquisitor set, something like that. And I don't know. I just don't know how much I feel like grinding out Bandos for that set. Like,
that's fair. I feel like that is one thing that I'm really excited about with this league. Jagex have made so many changes this year. Project Rebalance and the introduction of Varlamore and Varlamore Part 2. I feel like they've kind of thrown like what's considered meta, like just into the air, and like things are scattered. Like the spread is so much more even now, in my opinion anyway. And I think that makes it more exciting for leagues, right? I don't think a lot of people out there will be sweating like, I need the most optimal regions, but I don't think that exists anymore. Like, sure, you can pick a bad combination if you wanted to go down a particular route, but every region will have like strengths now, I think.
Yeah, and that's why for me, I feel like, and honestly, why I think I was pretty happy making this like list before we even know that much is just because I think a lot of it is based on just what content you want to engage with, not really like you pick these three and now you're doing like 10% the damage of somebody else. So oh, we forgot to mention for Asgarnia, there is the giant mole, an absolute banger. I hope he gets an Echo Boss variant that's just like an absolute beast.
I'm not sure it would be, purely because of the fact of how quickly accessible it is. Like, would they just make the Echo Boss accessible as soon as you've got a spade? I don't know.
Yeah, hell. Let's go.
That could be good, right? Yeah, I don't know. I think that'd be interesting. The mole is good, isn't it? But I feel like, I don't know. Again, it's one of those things that I think is great on a main account when you can actually do something with the drops, but you don't get much from the mole, do you? So it's just going to be a point task, and that's pretty much it. I guess you could argue again that pest control is a really nice bonus, because last year for Leagues 4, it was better than Soul Wars, if I remember right.
I think so, yeah. XP. It was slightly better.
So do you want to know my controversial opinion about that, though?
Yeah, let's hear it.
Because I'm glad they're nerfing Soul Wars. Like, nerf it to the ground, please. But I don't think they should nerf pest control.
Really? Why not?
Yeah, because I feel like it's a region choice. You know, you are like doubling down on a region. You only get 3 choices, right? I feel like you shouldn't be penalized for the bonuses that minigame gives you, because you've locked in a choice, and that might be one of the like determining factors as to why you've picked that region. Like, oh, I want this region because pest control is going to help me get through those early levels really quick. you know? So I don't think it should be nerfed, pest control, but nerf Soul Wars, please.
Yeah, I've seen some conversation too when people were like, oh, they need to like nerf hunter rumors because it's going to make like hunter training too OP if you pick Varlamore. And I'm like, yeah, that's why you pick the region.
That's why you pick the region
to get the bonus. And
yeah.
I think that's like what pest control kind of serves. So I think I'd be okay with that too.
Yeah, it'd be interesting. And that's why people would make an argument for Zeah being incredible, you know, early as well. But we'll get onto that because
we'll get onto that. Yeah.
The next one is our top picks. I've picked Zeah, or, you know, Kourend, but we'll call it Zeah. And you've picked the desert.
Yes. So which one do you want to talk about first?
You go first then. Tell me. Desert,
right,
number one.
Let's talk about desert. I think it's insane. I think it's just crazy good. Like, I'm
really surprised. I'm honestly really surprised.
Yeah, I was surprised too, because I originally was like, oh, this is kind of weak now, but I really do think this is just, if there was any other region where you just like cannot go wrong on, it is 100% the desert, because it is absolutely loaded with content. I think you've got Tombs of a Masket, which is by far the easiest raid to get into. Anybody can go into, have a good time. You can go with 8 people now too, and you're not hurting your chances at getting purples. So
that's amazing.
You can, like,
that is amazing.
Absolutely get carried by your friends and just have a blast, right? Like, you're getting all 3 mega rares with probably the least amount of effort compared to the other raids. You're getting full Masori, which is good ranged armor. You're getting the Fang, which is an amazing melee weapon. And even if you're one of the other styles, it's the best off style like melee weapon you can get, because it's so accurate. You don't need all the bonuses for it. Light Bearer is amazing.
Light Bearer is great. Getting 50 Light Bearers though?
Oh, that does suck. But it's listen, it's what we do for our shadows, okay? We sit through the mix. But let me keep going, okay?
Yeah.
Now, you don't need Desert to do the Desert Treasure 2 bosses anymore, right? But Desert still gives you Leviathan. So you can do Leviathan now. You can get full Virtus. So that makes Mage good there. You can get Soul Reaper Axe just from the Desert. Like, if you have a Halberd, you can melee the Leviathan now too, I'm pretty sure. So that becomes an option. Like, there's just so much stuff. Oh, and I know this is kind of cheating because we haven't talked about the Echo stuff.
I know.
Or anything else yet,
I knew you were going to mention it. Yeah.
I know. But it's getting a really good ranged weapon too. So that's like the only thing I think it didn't have, right? And now you're getting a ranged weapon from there too, which again, that feels super cheating because we haven't brought that in for anything else.
Let's do it. Hey, I think that because that's public and because that's the first thing they put out there, we should talk about it. Because fair enough, it's getting a slightly unfair advantage because it's the own, like, that and Fremi are the only places that we know where the confirmed Echo boss is, but we don't know what the Fremi item is, and we know what the desert one is. It's a ranged weapon. Can we speculate about it for a second?
Yeah, I think we should. I think we should.
I'm going to throw out what I think based on the limited information that Jagex have put out there, right? Because they said in the official League's Discord, which I'll link in the description because I think it's a great place. We've both been involved in some discussion there. So Jagex have posted in there some things that they've already confirmed for Leagues 5. One of them is that the Echo Boss weapons aren't going to be best in slot. Like, they're not going to beat the raid weapons, right? But they are going to be close. And they said think blowpipe. And that got me wondering, with the desert being the region that kind of unlocks darts, is the ranged weapon that we get from the Cowfight Queen going to be something like a blowpipe? You know, they said think a blowpipe, and I might be taking that too literally, but that would actually fit the desert really well. I don't know what you think.
That's exactly what I've been thinking.
Is it?
I think it's going to be, I've been thinking like the Chitin blowpipe from the Cowfight Queen that just shoots out darts.
Yeah.
That's been my idea the whole time. And like, I wish I could get it out of my brain because I feel like I'm unfairly judging the desert, but like, dude, if desert gives you a blowpipe on top of all the raid weapons and full Masori, like, oh, it's such a good region. It looks so good.
Can I just play devil's advocate though?
Yeah, go for it. Go for it. Tell me why it's 4, because that is a mind-boggling. That to me is insane. So
what is there to do outside of Toa, really? Like, I right, Temporos. I'm gonna list them off. Got
there's a lot. You'll be listing them for a while.
Okay, right. Giant's Foundry. Sure. Okay, some smithing supplies. Good if you've got Fire Sale. I guess it's all right for like skilling. Temporos, I'm just going through the skilling ones first. I guess that's okay. It's kind of chill. I guess I have to say Mage Training Arena, although let's be honest, that's in my favor. Like, that's why it's down there.
Yeah,
like,
okay, but it is better. It is better. They have changed it a little bit. So.
Yeah, sure. You've got things like Blackjack in the Agility Pyramid, Pyramid Plunder.
Guardians of the Rift as well.
Oh yeah, no, that's a good point. That is a good point. Is that definitely confirmed to be locked behind the desert?
I think it is desert locked because they said that Leviathan is desert locked because you need the Guardians of the Rift like minigame quest.
Okay, so that makes it slightly better then. But I was originally thinking like, is there much? Like, I'm just imagining myself running through the desert. Like, what is there actually? I mean, by definition, it's kind of barren, isn't it? But there is actually quite a bit there. So I get why you've got it high on the list. Number one might be a bit whack, but we'll see.
No, I think it's number one. It's so hard for me to put it anywhere lower.
Really?
Just because I really do think this. Like, again, I feel like every other region, I could see someone not having a good time at. Unless you absolutely hate tombs, I don't know how you could like not like the desert. That's kind of where I'm at. Yeah, no, that is fair. I know a lot of people don't like tombs, so maybe. I think one thing, because we talked about the Echo bosses a little bit, but kind of like in Fremennik, where I think having an Echo version of the Dagonoth Kings makes it more fun. I think having an Echo version of the Kalphite Queen also makes that like
that's true
less of a downside, if that makes sense. Which I think is like, again, I think that's going to be true for every region, but especially true for those like real stinkers that are just like, I don't want to kill the Kalphite Queen 250 times. I think we move on to your number one.
Yeah, let's
Zeah.
Zeah. It's Zeah, and honestly, a lot of people could make a case for why it's number one, but for me, it's the fact that there's everything from a first region to like the very last piece of endgame content. You know, like if you pick Zeah first, it's a good choice. If you pick Zeah last, it's a good choice. Like, you can't pick Zeah and kind of regret it in a way, because now we know you can get the mega rares from every raid. It's going to suit every combat style. The prayer scrolls are going to be like just amazing for both range and mage as well. So again, no combat style particularly suffers with Zeah. You've got a few mini games. So like Winter Todd is great. I'm not even going to get started on Tithe Farm. I hate that piece of content. But I do just think that like Zeah just has a bit of everything. Mid game boss Arachnis, early game skilling stuff, late game raids, mini games along the way, and, you know, one of the best Slayer bosses, which, you know, depending on the Slayer relic this year, could either be the best Slayer master to have, or the worst one. Because if you can't pick your task, Konar kind of fucks you over. But if you can, she's suddenly the best Slayer master. So I think there's a lot of reasons. I could go on, but that's like my basis for why I think Zeah is number one. I think it's got a great piece of everything for anyone picking anything in there.
I think for me though, I honestly I don't like Chambers of Xeric that much.
Oh, like, no.
I think I need to like just get, I think it's because I suck at it. That's probably why. Like,
really?
Honestly, I think I just don't, I'm not very good at it, so it's like it goes down. But like I started warming up to it a bit more as I've been doing more and more of it. Like I'm starting to become enlightened and seeing like, oh yeah, it's pretty fun, especially with groups and stuff, which is.
And they've made loads of like quality of life changes in Chambers over the last like 2 years as well, right?
That is true.
Chambers has definitely become better to try and modernize it, but I'm with you in the sense of that, like, it feels old. It's like old school RuneScape mechanics. Like, it's all like either movement or like placement. It's not too complicated, but it's super fucking punishing if you do it wrong.
And like, there's certain rooms, like I think like Vanguards in particular are just like really trash in leagues where you're like accidentally, you know, hitting one for like at 100 randomly, and then it full heals everything. It's like, oh, dude, really?
And the fact that you need like all 3 combat styles for Vanguards, right? And like in previous leagues, you'd lean in so far one way that it's not like unimaginable for you to step into a raid with like 99 mage if you've picked mage, but only 60 range, and you're like, this sucks so bad right now, you know? So I get it. I get that.
Yeah, I think though overall, like for me, I just think all the raid regions are really good this year, and I think it's just to me, it just feels like kind of like the weakest raid region, just because even outside of the raid, I just think the other stuff isn't as fun as like Desert and Morytania. Like if I compare even like Wintertodt to Temperos, I would rather do Temperos. I think it's more fun.
Okay.
Although there have been a lot of changes to Wintertodt, and that's actually pretty massive. I probably should have thought about that. And you actually mentioned the prayer stuff from the raids too. Those are stronger now. The mage one is a lot stronger. So that's pretty big. I just think the other content in the regions isn't as fun. Like even Sarachnis is kind of on the weaker side. But that could be changed with Echo Style. Yeah, one thing I was kind of thinking about was because you did your relic tier list, right, and stuff like that, and I've been working on mine actually, so I got that good. Pretty soon. Good. That's good. I remember, I think you rated the you remember the exploding attacks relic from Leagues 2? Yeah, it does like AOE, like it does like the multi hit, right? I didn't rate it. Yeah, you loved it. Yeah, well, I thought it was trash too, but then I realized I'm like, I feel like if this was added as like sort of a whatever combat mastery that you could pick now, that's not like competing with like these really powerful stuff. Yeah. And you went to Catacombs of Kourend and everything there is in multi-combat. That could actually be kind of cool to have like a really strong multi-combat with everything there. So. Yeah, for sure. I feel like that the only drawback to all of the Catacombs and the multi-combat stuff is it's hard enough on like a main game set of worlds to get a set of deck reels to yourself there. Like how the hell you're going to do it with only like 4 viable ping worlds is going to be kind of crazy. So I think that is a bit of a drawback to the Catacombs as well. Like they are great for Slayer, but they are going to be packed out in those multi-combat areas. I'm sure like jellies sound great on paper, like just spam those hard clues. But I bet they're going to be hard to, get like a load to yourself for. At the very beginning anyway. Obviously, as the league goes on, it'll get easier. I think with the combat masteries, if there's a little bit more like flexibility on what you can pick, like maybe there's 10 of them and you have to choose like 6 of them or something like that. Now maybe you can kind of slot in those, I guess the niche ones a bit more that will still get you value, but they're not like, you're not taking away something that's like really, really important. Yeah, no, I agree. And I kind of hope that the combat masteries work out a bit like, how like a talent tree looks in like classic RPG. That's what I'm kind of hoping for with the combat masteries. I'm kind of hoping you could be like, right, I'm going to pick this like level 1 melee relic because that's going to help me like snowball to my other styles. And then you go into the mage tree and you're like, okay, now I need to spec into this. I'm kind of hoping it's something along those lines. I think that would be a really, really cool concept. Balancing wise, I have no idea, but that could be cool, right? That's not our job to balance it. That's for them to figure out. I'm just here to have fun, Yeah, exactly. And Leagues is meant to break things anyway, so who knows? I feel like now we've seen each other's lists, we need to debate and come up with like a combined list, right? That's what we said we're going to do. We're going to come up with a combined list and agree on some sort of compromise here. Where do we start? I feel like the bottom 3 are probably the easiest because those are all hard bottom 3 for us. Yeah. I think I like Wildy being at the bottom. I know it will upset those Wildy enjoyers. It's funny because I was going to say I think I'm pretty happy switching and putting Tirannwn 9. Oh, really? So, yeah. No, to be fair, those last 2 interchangeable. So if we want to go Tirannwn 9, that's fine. Yeah, I feel like I'm of the opinion that I think there's like more to do in the Wildy, even if it's not like super like fun. No, I agree. And then I think Kandarin would then be 7 for us, right? Yeah. I think 6 Fremennik kind of makes sense because that's exactly where we had it. So. Yeah. We just leave Fremennik where it was. That's the only one in this whole list that we had in exactly the same place, right? Yeah, which I'm really happy about because I honestly was worried that we would just show up with the exact same list and there's like nothing to talk about. No, true. But I think here's where it's going to get difficult because I have put Varlamore in my top 3 and you've got it down here. The hard part is I think it is. I think it's Varlamore. I think it is 5. Do you? Yeah, it's hard for me to put it as a top 3. I don't know. It's just hard for me because I think Asgarnia is better than Varlamore, and I think the raid regions are better. I think the gear you get from Asgarnia is definitely better. I think the content in Varlamore, whether it's the novelty talking right now, I think it's more fun than Asgarnia. Here's where I'm at, okay? I'm thinking Varlamore 5, Morytania 4. Okay. But it's like close. I just feel like Morytania 5 feels so bad. Like
That's what I had it as. So I feel like bringing it down to 4 is a good compromise, but I would have to bring Varlamore down from 3 on my list.
That would, I think, make 3 Asgarnia, I almost want to say. I
guess it would be. And I think that's fair, actually. I think that's fair. I had it at number 2, but I think after our chat earlier, I said I would move it. I would bring it down.
Yeah. I mean, I think the big question is like do you think that Zeah and Desert are 1-2? Basically, in some order, or do you think something else? Because I'm of the opinion right now that Zeah, Desert are top 2.
Zeah and Desert top 2. It's just a question of which one is number 1.
Yeah, and I think just based off our combined list, I do think Desert becomes number 2 because yours is at 4. So that.
Yeah, and I think the thing about Desert that was giving it a slightly bigger advantage is the fact that we know what the Echo Boss is and what it gives.
Right. Yeah.
We don't know what mechanics it does, but it does make up for a weakness that the Desert had, and I feel like that's why we think it's great. Are you saying Zeah number 1 then? Are you coming around?
I think that would be Zeah number 1. Yeah, I think that would be. Because I have a top 3, and you know that's yours. And I mean, Desert didn't even make top 3 for you, so I feel like kind of weird to put it number 1 just based off my. Unless I like super sold.
I think the Desert's great, and I love Toa, but I just maybe I had. Slightly underrated it. Let's run through it from the bottom to the top.
Run through it one more time.
So number 9, we've got Tirannwn. I think that's fair.
Yep, I agree.
Number 8, Wildy. Number 7, Kandarin. I don't think we're disagreeing on the first 4 here because Fremmy's 6. We both had that anyway. Varlamore being 5, I think is fair because my reason for putting it so high was that I thought it was just an insane first region, like the best first region you could pick, and I stand by that. But I also said that it falls off, and I think it does. Like, it's going to cater really well in the mid game, but it does. You can't compare it to the raid regions because they're just going to be what you focus on towards the end.
Yeah, I feel like Varlamore will be more popular than some of the higher ones, if that makes sense. But I think you have to have one of the top 3, I would say.
Yeah, and I was wondering whether to say that before we came into this, to be like, are our top 3s just going to be raid regions? Because I feel like based on popularity, everyone is going to pick at least one raid region, or at least most people are.
See, that's the weird thing, because I think most people will pick a raid region, but they're not going to pick multiple raid regions. So I think something like Varlamore and Asgarnia are going to be more popular because people are going to pick that as their second or their third. It's just when they're first planning, they're going to think okay, I'm building around doing a specific raid, if that makes sense.
So I think we're set then, because the rest of it we just agreed on. I guess this is our combined list then.
I think so. Yeah, I think it looks good, and I'm pretty happy. I feel like I could defend any of these, pretty well. So
we should encourage people to come at us right now in the comments if you do have a slightly different list in your head, put it in the comments, because I want to know how different our combined list is now to other people's.
There's somebody who's already an essay on how Tirannwn is not the last region, and we're tripping right now.
Before we wrap up, is there anything else you wanted to cover?
No, I think that's pretty much it. Although it would be really fun to come back and spend 15 minutes reviewing this after we see everything and just seeing how just wildly wrong we were about.
Oh, 100%. It all happened, right? People will watch this back after it's already been confirmed to be like, these guys are absolutely idiots.
I don't know what they're talking about. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, crazy. But it's been fun, man. It's been fun talking through this with you. And I can't wait till we find out more information. I think it's going to be coming, any day of any week now. Big pieces of information are going to start coming through.
Oh, yeah. I think November is going to be League's full season. So I'm very excited on that.